This is the Team Objection podcast for October 10th, 2019, episode 409. Insert your Beach Boys or cleaning supplies jokes here.
Giddy up 409. Why 409? That was a car, right?
I think so. It almost had to have been, because if it wasn't a song about the beach or anything connected to the beach, and it wasn't a song about girls, the next thing was cars.
I mean, that was what the 50s was about, totally. In it, that's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, that was the only thing that existed back then. That's why it's so interesting now, because the world has expanded in so many ways that are different from back in the day. Women can vote now. Like, whoa.
That sucks. Move on.
I know, right? So tired of women. Anyways, me and Dave this week. Sean's out, family matter. So we're going to talk about life, because we thought about talking about the Suns and did off air for about 20 minutes, but
for a long time.
we'll save that for, God, it almost has to be next week, because the following week the episode will have aired after the first game.
I'm so excited.
Me too. So it might be a Suns cast next week as we preview the season. We'll see. It'll be one of the next two for sure, depending on schedules and the timing of when the season starts. Kind of awkward because it starts on a Tuesday night, and we of course record on Tuesday night. So we'll be like, "There's so many great things this season." Devin Booker's going to break his leg the first night. We'll be like, "Oh, that's a real bad look," and also I'm extremely sad.
Yeah.
So that's for later. No Suns this week. No basketball. You're safe. You can stay here no matter what your interests are.
But you should really pay attention to the Suns when you get a chance, because they're going to be fun this year.
I sure hope so, because if they're not, boy,
I give up.
I don't even know anymore. But that's for later. This week is about life. So two things that I wanted to bring up. One about me, one about Dave. And we'll see how long it lasts. And if it lasts 10 minutes, that's going to be the episode. Or maybe we'll fluff it. I don't know. So my thing is, I finished paying off my student loans this week.
You are in a small percentage of people our age.
I know. And when a Democratic contender gets elected president in 2020 and eradicates student debt, I will be one of those bitter people that is selfish and doesn't consider the needs of others and only thinks about myself and goes, what the hell? That'll make me sad.
I know. And I selfishly, I totally feel that, because I'm just like, but I did what was right. I worked hard. I was responsible. And if I just would have been irresponsible, then I wouldn't have to worry about it. And that sits wrong. But I understand the reasoning behind wanting to eliminate student debt. There's a whole host of other problems that come with that, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole economical divide about it. It certainly makes some sense, and it doesn't really address the problem. It addresses the symptom, but the problem is still the rapidly rising cost of college.
Although I cannot understand for the life of me why a lot of people don't understand that the fact that student loans are so available are the reason college is so expensive. Like, why is it that can't be reconciled with a lot of people? Like, oh, free money, let's raise the prices. Just like cars right now. Like, I'm trying to find a new car, and it's really expensive to find new cars because everyone can just get 7-year loans and pay monthly, and that's all people think about is how much they can afford per month, not how much the car costs. And
yeah, and they've started offering those 7, and I've even seen a few 8-year loans just because that way it gets the monthly rate at a point that seems attractive, and it's like, oh
why?
My God.
How do people not look at the amount that they're being charged overall? Like, anytime I've ever signed for a loan, I'm like, hey, here's my principal. Here's how much I'm being charged to not pay this thing off right now. And it sucks. It hurts me to see it.
Well, the problem is it's twofold, really. One of the issues is, for some people, they do look at that, but it's the only way they can afford the vehicle. Now, you can argue maybe they should get something else that's within their means, but any new car is expensive. So maybe they should be looking used, blah, 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 whatever. But there's reasons for it where some people look at it, but they just can't reconcile the cost with what they have right now. Some people are absolutely not paying attention. And they're just going, well, like $200 a month, I can afford that. I mean, 8 years, but I won't keep the car all 8 years. And it's like, yeah, but that's not helping either. When you keep it for 3 of the 8 years in the lease and then trade it in for something else, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Well, I remember when I went by a car dealership, and the dealer was amazed that I had equity in the car I was thinking of trading in. It's like, you have no idea how many people come in and are upside down. And in my mind, I'm thinking wait, people go in to try to trade in their car that they're upside down on, that they owe more than it's worth? Like, I wouldn't even consider that as a possibility. I'm like, yeah, I owe too much. I can't trade it
in. Yep. And that's why I had a 2-year lease on the car I bought a few years ago, and I hated it. 2 years, and I was like, boy, well, I mean, I can take this monthly payment. It's big, but I can afford it, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as that's done, I actually only made it 2 years instead of 1 because it was going to help my credit a little bit more. So I was like, fine. 8 years. Like, God,
Ugh.
8 years? I don't even know what's going to be happening in 8 years.
The most likely the car's not going to be working. Like a lot of it.
And if it is, it's going to be 6-figure miles, and
Yep.
it's just, and it's going to be what, a fourth of what it was worth originally, a fifth.
That's a generous estimate potentially.
Yeah, I mean, my God.
But hey, congrats to you paying off the student loans.
Yeah, they even said congrats when I was like talking to the representative, which was kind of weird because it's like, well, I just owe you money, but I understand the sentiment. Okay.
Well, whoa, you did it over the phone to pay it off? That's the extra. I was going to ask how you did it because, I mean, if you did it online, it would be almost unsatisfying to be like, pay
Click.
amount and then be done.
Yeah, no, I didn't do it that route because when I started with this particular place I had to pay it off to, they didn't have a website version of it. It had to be done over the phone, which was a pain in the ass. Eventually, I could set up automatic payments, and then when I paid off the first of the 2 loans a few months ago, and the same thing happened where the amount that was automatically withdrawn was too big, so they withdrew nothing. And I had to call them up and say, hey, I noticed that there wasn't a payment made. I think it's because this amount was left. Can I finish that? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll take your... I don't know why they can't just automatically deduct less than what was agreed on to finish off the... But whatever. So, yeah, I had to call in and, got put on hold once and listen to music for a couple minutes. Nothing too bad. So I got to experience a person, and they actually did say congrats. So that felt nice. Because like you said, if it was just a really, like, homogenized click on a website, I don't think it would feel quite the same.
Yeah. But even so, it's got to feel nice just to have that idea of like, all right, well, that's a couple $100 a month that I was spending that now is just here going forward. I can buy whatever I want with that now.
I was paying $250 a month on each, so I had the one free for a few months now, but now those are both just gone. It's like extra income. I got like a $6,000 raise
for not doing anything except paying it off.
Well, total for the two of them combined, like $6K.
Yeah.
So
Go
ahead.
Oh, just thinking like I imagine like I got lucky in the sense that just the way my life went, I was able to roll in my student loans into a house payment because I had some increasing value of real estate, and so I was able to roll it all in. So mine was paid off, but it was kind of also in another transaction. So, but I was lucky too because I graduated more than 10 years ago, and my whole cost of college was less than $20,000. I can't imagine what it's like now if like you have a loan for $20,000 for every year you went to college.
Yeah, because I took out two for $9,000 and $6,000, so about $15K. Yeah. That was in 2004 and 2005. It's 2019 now, and I've just now paid it off. Yay! But also, so I was going to ask you that same thing effectively, which is obviously you're financially minded and you're looking ahead at 2 kids, soon to be 3. What the hell are you going to do? Assuming that college is still a thing in 13 years, when it comes time for this to become an issue, are you actually going to encourage them to go? Or are you going to encourage them to stay in state and just pursue whatever?
It really depends. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. I would like to think that I'm going to encourage them to go to college because I think that it is a really good transition period for a lot of people moving from being under your parents' watch to having a safety net almost, like especially living in a dorm or something like that where you have responsibilities, but it's not like you're completely on your own. But I do wonder how college is going to be because I know it can't continue increasing the way these costs are going. No matter what party is in power over the next 15 years, you can't continue having these prices. People will stop going. Yeah. And so selfishly, I'm hoping the bubble bursts and a lot of people stop going and prices come down in 10 years. And then 15 years from now, I'm like, oh, cool, here, go to college, kids. But I don't know how that's going to happen because if we're still just giving away loan money, people will just keep taking them.
Yep. And it seems attractive, too, especially when you compare it with a handful of grants or scholarships. If you can minimize the damage the loan does, it feels like you're still getting a value. Well, they're covering tuition, so I should take out a loan for board and books and blah, blah, blah. The thing I think that people don't understand, especially older folks, and look, we're both millennials. We obviously bristle at some of the criticism of our generation. Some of it's also deserved. One of the biggest ways you can tell that baby boomers and beyond are out of touch is when they say, oh, well, why can't you guys afford college the same way we could? And it's like, in the last decade, tuition at NAU has gone up 4-fold in 10 years. It has quadrupled.
Yeah.
You tell me how that's sustainable and how that's affordable, because I guarantee you income hasn't gone up 4-fold. Hasn't even doubled.
It's not even comparable in that sense because it's cost so much to go that you can't even fathom the idea of paying to go to college while you go to college. It's not going to happen. Like, it costs too much.
Think about it this way, because this is one that I've thought about more recently, the last couple of months, as I try and just put all this in perspective. If you're going out of state and you're taking loans to do so. You don't have, say, scholarships or something, which is a terrible decision, and I don't recommend it to any of our listeners. But if you were, say you're paying $30K a year to go out of state, which is probably low today, but let's just say $30K for some like low-level college that has a program you want. $30K a year is basically like a sunk cost. Some people make $30, $35K a year, and instead of earning that money, you're devoting all of your time to college and paying it effectively in a loan that's actually going to cost even more than that when the interest keeps compounding over the years it takes to pay it back. So you're spending 4 years, maybe 3 if you're fast, maybe 5 or 6 if you're not, just eating money, just lighting it on fire to get into a field that half of college graduates aren't even taking jobs in their major anymore. And even if you are, it's unlikely to be high enough paying to account for it unless you're going into something big like engineering, doctors, whatever. So all of it is just hemorrhaging money from a generation that knows very little about what to do with money.
Yeah, I'm hoping that what kind of causes the burst of the college bubble, is that people stop going except if it's a very specified thing, and then employers on the other end stop kind of looking at like, oh, good, you went to college. I don't care what you went to college for. It's just, oh, cool, you've got that check mark, which is what I kind of went for. I didn't go to a college for a major specifically. I went because it's like, oh yeah, you go to college, and I have a college degree, but I don't use it. I don't know that anything I did in college affects my day-to-day job now, except for the fact that I can say, yep, I'm a college graduate. And that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you got maybe some fringe knowledge, but certainly nothing dedicated to what you're doing right now specifically. Yeah, no. I think trade schools making a rise would help a long way, because it's sort of similar to what you talked about, where it's like, okay, you're learning about this specific field. Now, you better hope that you want to go into that, because you know, I changed my major twice in college and eventually settled on what I am doing for a job, but not everybody's going to be that way. And for some people, they might go to trade school and be like, oh, shit, I thought I wanted to work on cars, but like, I don't want to be a mechanic, so I got to change course. But I think the option being there would be really helpful to help reduce the cost of the traditional four-year college.
Oh yeah, I just Googled it really quickly for the University of Colorado at Boulder. So
which was $30K when Dave and I were trying to go, so it's got to be more now.
Actually, it's $35K a year now.
Okay.
For out of state. I'm not sure what it was when we went. I know it was expensive. I think it was near 20 actually by the time when we were there.
30 stuck in my head from back then, but it could have been including some other costs and not just. I'm not sure, but yeah, either way.
It's just I just imagine like it's $11,500 for in-state tuition. I mean that's 46,000 or so.
Yeah.
For the 4 years you go. That was that's more than double what I paid for college.
I'm actually doing something now because I'm just curious, and we'll see if I can find it quickly enough while I vamp. I was looking at tuition for Brophy.
Our private high school.
Almost $15K, which is about double what we paid, if I'm not mistaken. We were in like the $65,000-$7,000 range, I think.
Our whole 4 years cost about $23,000.
So yeah, about $6K. Because I remember I had to do work study, and that was like half of it, so that number stuck out to me. So that's doubled in the last 15 years since we graduated, 16.
Yep.
And now, granted, that was a choice that our families made, and I do not regret it overall. But again, just thinking about the cost of all of it, forgetting the value benefits, because there are some, but just thinking about the money that goes into that. Now, a lot of people at Brophy were affluent and came from wealth, and so if they can afford that easily, I guess good for them. But my God, like I could have gone to Brophy and then UC Boulder or some other decent out-of-state school and been 6 figures in the red.
That's easily. And that was something both you and I wanted to do. Was both of you and I kind of wanted to go to UC Boulder. It was just one of those like get out of state, but we're familiar with the area type of thing.
Yeah.
So, but it came down to cost for me. I'm not going to that. I wasn't going to that.
And the reason I went to NAU, I didn't really have any really strong one, but one of the reasons was it was sort of like UC Boulder Light, a college town in the mountains, but at in-state tuition instead of out-of-state.
Yeah.
And I had a scholarship, so I was like, yeah, okay. Because even my middling like 3.3 GPA from Brophy, which some of those kids were taking 97 AP classes and had like a 4.4, a 3.3 GPA from Brophy was attractive, so I got a scholarship from the lower tier in-state colleges. So I went, okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I think about 15 years from now for my kids, what they're going to do with college. If they want to go out of state, you got to get a scholarship. Like you're not. I'm going to strongly advise against taking out loans because I've seen like you hear about it, you see the trouble that it can cause people, and I'm not going to bail them out.
No.
In that instance, so if you want to go out of state, you better get you'd better have either a very strong drive for one particular thing, and it depends on my financial situation at that time, or you better have a scholarship. Otherwise, like, I'll help you out with, I'll maybe try to help you as much as I can. I've got savings accounts set up for the kids right now. We're just putting a little bit in each time. I want to start, a 529 plan here soon for them so I can get something going. But I mean, I'm not going to be able to contribute a ton to it.
There is, to me, and while this is my opinion, I think it is true, zero reason to pay out of pocket for a 4-year university. Zero. In-state, maybe. Out-of-state, zero. Zero. You can find a similar program at an in-state college, even if it's a community college, and go there for a year or two. As long as you have to look in to make sure that the courses and the credits transfer. But there have to be other avenues for you than just paying raw out of pocket 4 years to go somewhere that's not in your state.
Yeah, the only one I could possibly think is something like Harvard. And the reason for that is that you get your name, you got a Harvard diploma, that name carries weight, and it still does. And I mean, you've obviously got to put the work in, but could potentially open doors that weren't there before. It's $50,000 a year to go to Harvard. You're going to be $200K in $200K just going to school.
Yeah. And I mean, the number of presidents and CEOs and everybody else who's gone through that channel, and a few other similar Ivy League schools, but none really have quite the pedigree Harvard does. There is something to be said for that, but boy, you better be sure you're going into a field that's going to pay it back.
Yeah,
because if you go to Harvard because you're smart and you're driven, and you don't parlay it into something for your career, then you've done a massive disservice to yourself.
You go start your own business selling seashells by a seashore. It's like, well, you didn't need to spend $200,000 to do that.
Yep.
So,
So anyways,
that last thing on that, like, I see people who are like in my field who are financial advisors, and it's like, you went to a really fancy college to be a financial advisor. That doesn't mean anything in your field. Like, are you a good relationship builder? Are you a good sales manager? Yeah, you might have learned some of those skills in college, but having that piece of paper and spending all that money didn't do a damn for you.
Yeah, and the same is true of me.
Yeah.
I'm an editor of a newspaper. I imagine some of the editors of the big papers across the country have gone to prestigious universities. I didn't. I got my way here because I was smart and savvy, and I worked hard, and I picked things up along the way after about a decade of actual professional experience and 15 years of doing it just in general.
Yeah.
That was what did it for me, not my degree.
And like, I think about myself and my profession, what helped me get my job is the fact that I passed certain licensing tests in my industry.
Yeah.
That helps more than my college degree. That makes me more marketable than my college degree.
All of it just kind of has this disconnect because, like, as the final point on this, you go into debt, and as soon as you graduate, you have to start paying it off. It becomes due, and you're very rarely going to just jump into whatever field, whether it's connected to your major or not, straight out of college because you're 23-ish. You have no clue what you're doing. You have limited to no work experience. And you're not just going to jump into a job that can then afford to pay off this money that you've just accrued. So you're going to be eating interest for at least a few years while you get your feet underneath you.
You defer it, and is that just, ugh.
The whole system is kind of messed up. And we kind of know this intuitively, especially having just gone through it ourselves or still going through it in the case of a lot of people our age. But you don't ever really take a step back and go, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah. Well, and then imagining life changing, like for Courtney, my wife, like, she got her master's degree. She got a student loan from that. And then we had kids, and now she doesn't teach.
Yep.
She specifically got a master's to go be a teacher and was really good at it. And then we had kids, and now she's not a teacher anymore. We still got to pay that back.
Yep. And life can change on you before you know it. A career changes, moving, whatever it might be. All those things are also additional things working against you because the loan's sitting there. It's not going away.
You can't even bankrupt it.
So, yeah. I don't know what the solution is. That's one of the tricky things is, like a lot of problems in the country right now, there's not just a clear-cut, well, if we just did this. We talked about a few things that I think would help. They'd be a step in the right direction. But some of these issues are so institutionalized that I just don't have a good sense of what it might take to change it.
Yep.
So the other thing is sort of tangentially related to what you just said a moment ago, which is I'm going to put Dave on the spot. He doesn't know what's coming. I knew I was going to talk about student loans because I did it. Dave doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. But it's not that hard of a question. I'm just curious to see how much he wants to open up about it on air. So I'll ask it, and he can decide. What a fun tease. What vamping. Baby number 3 is on the way. We are T-minus, 4 or 5 weeks-ish?
Six.
So, and obviously, who knows? It's a due date. Anything could happen. This is probably the last, considering you have gotten a vasectomy now. But
yeah, ow.
yeah, but the fact remains that the timeline is now resetting because we're now both your two children that you have now are both kind of at the point where they're somewhat self-sustaining. You're about to go back to the drawing board with somebody who's going to need late nights and awful sleep patterns and blah blah blah. How much regret do you have? Not regret, you know what I mean when I say this, but like, were you getting used to sort of getting some semblance of a routine back and you're like, man, it's kind of sucking that we have to go back to this again for a couple years? Or are you kind of like, we've been through it a couple times, it'll be easier now, we know what to do better? Like, where are you at on this?
Can I say yes?
I mean, both are probably applicable. I'm just curious, like, is there one that weighs more than the other?
It varies from day to day. Honestly, like, it's funny how this happens. Because, like, when we first found out about the baby, I was like, oh, why? And it's not a great thing to say, and I feel bad for when this kid finds this 10 years now.
That's what I said in the intro. That's why I was like, it could be incriminating down the road. Who knows?
But it's one of those unexpected but not unwanted type of things. You know, we had an idea of what was going to happen going forward. Both kids were going to be in school. Courtney was going to continue to stay home, or for this year at least, and then maybe look for employment maybe down the road, and we were going to move to a different level financially and do X, Y, and Z. And for the first few months, it was kind of like, man, we were so close. We were right there. Everything was shaping up fine. And what's helped is the fact that, one, we do know what we're doing. This is going to be so easy in comparison to the first two kids.
Mm-hmm.
As the two kids we can say, go to another room and leave us alone. And they will. They'll go play in their bedrooms. They'll go play in the playroom. Like, they don't have to be watched 24/7. So that helps. And then also we know what we're doing. And my company has such a generous parental leave policy that it helps ease this so much.
Yeah.
And it's in the long term, obviously it doesn't mean a damn thing. But for now, the idea that, I get to spend the entire holidays with my family and not have to go to work at all is mind-blowing to me. And it really kind of makes me a little bit excited for the fact that I can really start out right for the first 4 months of this baby's life and don't have to worry about going to work. I don't have to worry about taking care of things outside the house. And then I know when I'm ready to go, when I'm back to work, it makes it so much easier to go back knowing the foundation's laid.
It's sort of a moot point now, but would Courtney have gone back to teaching if Alex was in, say, kindergarten at that point?
A lot of factors. She would not have gone back to the school she was at, that's for sure. The only thing I'd even considered is that she goes and teaches at the school the kids are going to.
Yeah.
Because then it just fits.
It might even be cheaper in some senses, where they'd be like reduced tuition and that kind of stuff.
Probably. But I mean, that's all dependent on like them going to that school are still dependent on my parents. I'm not paying their tuition because my parents were like, "Hey, we want to pay this for you," and I'm like, "Okay, I will take my privilege and smile about it."
Yeah, I wish I knew what that was like.
It's a struggle sometimes, and because I like it. I love the fact that they want to do it and they're vocal about it and they want to help out the kids, because that is like, basically I'm second rate now. Like I'm son. They don't care about me anymore. It's like, new generation grandchildren are here. Like we care about them.
Yep.
But then I think, like, if you were just giving me that money into a college fund, tying back to what we were talking about earlier, and you just put that money in a college fund, they could go wherever they wanted, probably. Mm-hmm. So struggling a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool of them to do though.
It is, and I look at the curriculum at the public school that's around the corner from my house, and while it'd be awesome for Caitlin to be going to that public school, what she's learning now, I mean, my daughter's 5 and can read easily, like really, really well. Like, her handwriting is better than mine at this point, I think, which is kind of weird. But, like, she can read and write, and she's 5 at the level a lot of 7-year-olds can't do. And that's not entirely the school's doing. Like, some of it's family life too, but I think she'd be bored at a different school. So I don't know. I don't know what the right call is.
As a kid who went through a lot of the gifted program in elementary school himself, there's some value in it, because I also would not have been challenged enough in his traditional program, especially at a public school. Mm-hmm. Only because they had that gifted aside, that was the only reason I had anything that was at least remotely challenging, because I was in like 9th grade math and 5th grade or 6th grade, something like that. Yeah. So those things helped. Otherwise, I don't know what teachers would have done with me.
I remember, God, I remember so much in elementary school being like third grade and like we had multiplication tables, and I'd be like, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now what do you do? Well, I guess you can do your homework. Okay, done. Now
Done.
what do I do?
Now what? Geez.
Uh,
Well, I have 29 other kids in this class who are not at this, I don't know, capricious, so precocious.
geez, Rick. I don't know, Rick.
Oh,
Geez.
geez. Capricious is the wrong word. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Now, here's another question then. So
Yes.
the front end problems are obvious and known, but the gap's not that big, and I guess that applies to this question too. Have you given any thought to the back end, which is to say this resets the clock on when there will be kids out of the home, and you and Courtney can have more time for yourself because you're now going to be in your 50s when you get to that point, and this new kid is now 18.
Yeah, I have thought about that, but it's the difference between 50 and 53.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and besides the way society has been going, I mean, life expectancy is longer. Kids are generally staying in their parents' house longer. Our friend Andy, his stepdaughter is 23 or 24 and just moved back in with them. So, I mean. So if it resets the clock, it might have been taken a long time anyway. I don't know when they're going to be out on their own. I hope they are successful enough that they want to be out on their own when they're not 18 and never want to move back in and come visit frequently. But, I don't
Who
know.
knows?
Yeah.
Did you talk to your parents at all about the prospects of it? Like, hey, when me and Molly moved out, what was it like for you guys? Did you find the house was empty? Did you find you liked all the time you had at your disposal? Have you ever had that conversation with them to see how it related to you guys now?
Not really. And that's actually an interesting conversation. And I think, well, I mean, I just, in observing them, I know they basically like, all right, well, we're going to go do all of our own passions. Like my mom got really into theater. My dad got more into music again. And like they kind of just went their own separate ways for a little while doing what they wanted to do because they had the time.
Yeah. So that's the one I can't really go to my family to relate with because unlike your kids, ours are obviously not at all close together. Where I'm 34 and my brother is soon to be 17.
Yeah.
So they are just now approaching the point where they might be able to answer that question themselves, let alone me. I haven't started a family yet, but I was just curious because that's a good age where you guys could still be doing things. I mean, not that you can in your 60s and 70s and beyond, but 50s, I mean, should be plenty alive and kicking and ready to rear and do all sorts of stuff. And in your field, you could even be getting somewhat close to retirement at that age. No. Well, I guess with all the kid expenses, probably not. But
I am looking at retirement at potentially like 67, 68 as maybe I can basically have an equivalent salary to what I'm making now. But that's a long time from now.
Yeah, and I've had that thought myself of like, how am I going to make journalism survive for 35 more years? Because I'm probably not retiring before 70. I mean, 65 has always been like that magic age, but I don't really think that's the case anymore. And if it is, it probably certainly won't be the case 35 years from now when there's no such thing as Social Security and Medicare has been eaten by a giant swamp monster and all of a sudden nothing's left for us.
I swear, if Social Security's not there, that's an underrated crime because it's like I'm paying into Social Security now as part of like this is the whole point of you taking taxes out is so that I have retirement. And if I don't, it's like then why didn't I just take that money and invest it myself?
Yeah,
because I would have.
These are obviously they're referred to as entitlements, and the idea is entitled has that negative connotation. And it's like if you yank that from underneath me, and I've been paying into it for years or decades, you best believe I'm going to feel entitled.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not really entitlement when I've been paying into it, but
like it's great that I sponsored my previous generation's retirement and let them live comfortable lives. I guess that's fine, as long as it comes back to me too.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, the hell with that generation.
Yep.
All right, that was it. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's fine. It's such a weird thing because like there's a part of me that still feels like I'm 23 and I'm like, yeah, let's just go out and I don't have to worry about anything. I'm gonna go buy and play video games all night and go out to a bar and watch football and that's like what I want to do. And then I turn around and hear a kid screaming behind me like, oh yeah, I'm almost 35. Oops.
Yeah, no bars.
I mean, but the thing is, I still like doing stuff like that. I still like going out to a bar and watching football. I still like going to Suns games. I still like playing video games. Like, I still like all the things that I liked when I was 23, but now I just have other thoughts that take up that time, so I even cherish it more when I'm able to.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Because you get to a better position in your career and you can afford to do all the things that you could do back then, but you either have time or money constraints or both that prevent you from doing the things that you wanted to do when you were a grown man, but only like 23. at the time you were kind of like a man child. And you're like, oh, I do all these cool things. You had some disposable income. Now you have more income and less to do
Less
with it.
disposable income, which is weird. Although, like, you're asking a question about regrets. I have no regrets over having kids because I know I always wanted them. But I do every once in a while think of the fact of, like, if I had my job I had right now and Courtney would have stayed on her teaching path, and oh my God, we'd have so much money.
Yeah. If you'd waited like 5 years and
or if we were just one of those couples like, no, we're never having kids, I'd be like, well, let's go to Paris this year and we'll go to.
Yeah, because your income alone could sustain the family. Hers on top of that would just be gravy. And
yeah,
you
I'd be
take
like, okay.
Sabbaticals, and she has summers off, and
it would really just kind of be like, you know what? Do you want to go to Hawaii this year? Yeah, I guess we'll go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to Paris last year, so well, I mean, we got to make sure we hit our Disneyland with our annual pass that we have. Like, that's what I feel like my life would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough, and I don't envy you for that position. I would also like kids at some point, but there are aspects of it where I was like, God, how would I manage that right now? Maybe this job eventually levels off. It's easier than it was a year ago. It's certainly not easy. Back then, I was thinking to myself, I'm glad I don't have like a dog, because I'm in the office 12 hours a day. Like, who the hell? What would that even look like?
Well, I gotta say I'm extremely fortunate that Courtney is willing to stay home because I do have days. I had last Wednesday, I was in the office from 6 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. I was just like sitting there like, okay, I want to go, and then it takes an hour to drive home. So I wasn't home until 6:30, almost 7 o'clock at that day. I'm like, I was in 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. that day, and like I was gone. I'm like, if I didn't have a wife that stayed home and took care of the kids, like that'd be one of us having to make sure we leave work at a certain time to get the kids from daycare or something like that. And I'm just glad I don't have to do that, even though I have way less money than a lot of other people do because of that.
But it's enough.
Yeah,
it could be more. It might be tight at times, but it's not like you're ever on the fringes of being, bankrupt.
Oh no, not in the least.
So yeah, I mean, maybe a couple more years more, like you could have saved and really planned ahead. But things happen for a reason.
My biggest goal is I want to not have any debt, and obviously I'm gonna have a mortgage for a long time, but if I can pay off all the other debts, then I feel pretty good.
So I have to spend this last moment of the show to say something nice about my mom, because she and my brother have been apparently listening through the archives, and apparently I've never said anything nice about her in all these episodes, which I don't believe. But I do believe they're few and far between, because I don't say anything nice about almost anybody on this show.
I'm trying to count how many times you said something nice about me. And really, the only time maybe that's come down is when I've gotten Sean with a good zinger.
Yeah, which you do sometimes. You're a decent father. Your beard looks nice. It's different, though, because you're here. So, like, I know you're going to hear what I say, and you would think that would mean I would say nicer things, but instead it's the exact opposite. And that's even more true for Sean, who says nice things about you off air and never says a thing about you on air that's even decent.
Sean is like the nicest person to be ever off air, and on air he hates my guts.
Mm-hmm. So I will say this. I can't imagine going through what she did when she was 19, having me, because we talked about maybe you could have waited a couple more years and you guys might have been in a slightly better position. Well, she hadn't even have a job yet. She was going through med school at the time, racking up debt while still barely making enough to get by. It's part of why I saw my grandparents so much growing up, and Dave's familiar with them because I kind of introduced them to him too and brought him into that part of the family. So that's kind of the weirdest part to me. It's like I have been living single for years now, making a comfortable amount of money, putting some away. I don't know how it would have worked if this had happened to me 16 years ago. I sort of made a point to make sure that wasn't the case back then because I'm like, I'm not going to make that same mistake. But yeah, I don't know how you get by just in regular means in our generation. And I've seen posts from like out of touch baby boomers on news sites and opinion pages that are like, millennials, lack of spending are probably what's hurting the economy right now. And I'm like, of course we're not spending, motherfucker. We're not spending because we don't have any money.
Or they're spending on other things like just our rent.
Yeah, so God forbid you actually have extra things in the equation like kids or pets or medical bills or racked up student debt or whatever else might come up. I don't know how you get by sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny when it comes to stuff like medical bills or even something as stupid as a cell phone. It's like the family had a $25 phone bill when they were, and that was like your utility. You had your power, your water, and your phone bill, and that was your utility. Mm-hmm. Now we have power, now we have water, most people have cable, although a lot of people have cut that now, and then you have a cell phone bill, and it's almost an internet bill. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to function in today's society without a smartphone, without internet. So that's another $200 a month probably between internet and cell phone that you're paying, or $150 a month, whatever it is that you're paying. In which, well, you didn't have that bill 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
And housing's gone up, and so all of it's just, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I get by fine, and even more so
yeah,
since I got this job. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that like this smartphone that I'm holding up, because not everybody has video, is not really an option for me. I could have a flip phone, and that would take care of half the things I would need to do because I just need to be reachable at all hours. I could not have a cell phone; that would be completely impossible in this job. But even now, I need to be able to check my emails on the go. I need to be able to check, certain story budgets and whatever else is coming down the pipe. I've seen those like, could you give up your phone for $100,000 for 1 year? And I'm like, before this job, absolutely, 100%. Now though, no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, it's rough. So, but yeah, those are the differences that we have to deal with it, and it's tough. It's just tough when it comes to that because those are things that you have to expect, or the cars are more expensive, all those things. And so, what are you going to do when you just try to live a normal, even below average life, and everything costs a ton? So, and I mean, the answer is not a universal basic income, Andrew Yang, but whatever.
No, and while it'd be nice to get one of his $1,000 a month stipends or whatever that is,
Yeah.
then probably not. Although at least I think he's an interesting candidate to have in the race. He's never going to win, but at least he kind of
Yeah.
makes the debate more interesting.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is this, and it's kind of one last shot at baby boomers, since apparently that's my target this episode.
Take that.
One of the funny things to me, in a very sad and ironic way, is that I see a lot of people, even some Gen Xers, complain about those very same smartphones. And it's like, well, millennials keep complaining about not having any money. How come they keep buying like smartphones and the like? And it's like, you can't have it both ways. Either millennials aren't contributing to the economy because they're not spending enough, but what do you think the smartphone is? That's spending.
It is.
It falls into that category. Now, you can argue whether it's the best use of spending. That's fine. But you can't comment on the very same articles and be like, see, if they would stop buying these smartphones, they'd be in better shape financially. It's like, well, we're tanking the economy even though we're buying smartphones. So what would it look like if we stopped?
If they just stop buying avocado toast.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God.
Fuck off. Get out of here. That was a thing for like 6 months. It's already long since over with.
Yeah. Or the buying Starbucks every day. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's baby boomers that are buying Starbucks on their way into at work every day.
Yeah, because
I'm sure as hell not.
Yeah, because I can now afford to do that, but I wouldn't want to even if I could and wanted coffee.
The level of income I'd need to have to justify spending $6 a morning on coffee is, I can't even fathom how much I'd actually need to justify that.
Or eating out
But I
every
still
day.
don't think I'd do it.
I can afford to eat out every day. I
would
want
do that
to.
before I got coffee every day. That's
Yeah,
the
same.
answer.
Yeah, so I've always been somewhat frugal, so getting more money in this position hasn't really changed that. But at the same token, it's like, I don't want to spend that kind of. I can buy groceries and make things at home for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
I don't need avocado toast.
I mean, I remember when I got this job I had now, I remember telling you it was like a 50% raise on what I made before. The only thing I really splurged on was the fact that I got the house that I wanted to live in for the next 20 years. And that's where majority of the raise I got went.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not buying any different. I'm not spending any differently than I did before. So.
Well, we're the problem and cause of everything that's wrong in the country. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, we are it.
If I just wasn't so lazy and entitled.
Yeah, but meanwhile, you're working right now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually looking over to check on something. So, yeah, it's been a constant pretty much the last 15 months as I'm always at least looking at this while I'm doing the show.
Yeah.
It's great. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Next week is likely the Suns cast. We'll see. You'll know at the start of the next one what's happening for sure. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com. Send your avocado complaints to our social media components at Team Objection on Facebook and Twitter, or to our email, objectionnetwork@gmail.com. And finally, it's youtube.com/objectionnetwork. Our Trails of Cold Steel 3 playthrough will be starting the night the game comes out. It technically already has started, and it was well received, so go check it out. But we'll be continuing it as soon as we have the game in our hands. See you next time.